developments have moved rapidly. The ceasefire deadline is approaching without a clear agreement. Iran has signaled its readiness to escalate in response to what it described as violations, while the United States maintains that pressure remains essential to securing a broader deal. At the center of this tension lies the Strait of Hormuz, where military posturing and economic stakes intersect. At the same time, political messaging from both sides have raised questions about whether communication itself has become part of the crisis. Well, to unpack these developments, we are joined from Washington by political analyst Ms. Ginger Chapman and from Cairo by international and Arab affairs expert Mr. Mahmoud Hussein Ahmed. Good morning to you and welcome to Q News. Let me start here. Important to tackle thoroughly. Let me go here to Mr. Ahmed. And Mr. Ahmed, from a regional perspective, how is Iran interpreting the latest U.S. moves, particularly regarding the naval presence and blockade?
At the outset, welcome to you and to the guest from Washington. I'd like to say that Iran has been taking very precise steps. Now reclosing the Strait of Hormuz is the natural result of what is happening of the ongoing military confrontation between Tehran and the United States. The Strait of Hormuz is the weakness point for the United States and for the entire world, blocking the shipping vessels and putting this economic impediment is an obstacle for the entire world, and with one decision Iran was able to stop it all. Here there is a very important question. Tehran is now certain that the United States will not seek to continue the ceasefire, but they will want a full-blown war. That's why they have reclosed the Strait of Hormuz. The security result is the land confrontation between the United States and Iran, which will be a major crisis, and it will be a global destabilization of matters. And I think this escalation and this will lead Iran to cut the internet globally through the near lines, and this will also disrupt and paralyze the economy at a global level. But the United States must be aware of this point and to have some kind of diplomacy and communication going back to the negotiating table in Pakistan. And now there was an opportunity with the Iranian and the US presence in Pakistan. There was a discussion over the Strait of Hormuz, and there must be also a committee to discuss the nuclear file headed by all three sides, Pakistan, the United States, and Iran, to reach a de-escalation and to guarantee no further escalation from Tehran and from Washington. But this recent escalation of reclosing the strait fuels the policy of confrontation, and it stresses the new military strategy on both sides to to pose an obstacle for the United States to get a land existence in Tehran.
Right, Ms. Chapman.
I think there will be more escalation between the two sides. Iran is well aware that closing the strait is an obstacle for the United States, and it's an obstacle for the entire world. And this might be some kind of pressure on Trump to end the war. And that's why Tehran, we can say, is using some strategic intelligence to apply pressure on Trump after that Trump announced that it's ready, that he's ready for a ground invasion on Tehran, and also that he is planning an airstrike. Now, any kind of ground intervention will be more dangerous for the United States itself. And then they will resort to a new strategy, the strategy of pressuring the United States through the European Union by closing the Strait of Hormuz and by disrupting the shipping movement, with prompting internal conflicts in these states. What has been done in Pakistan, or what has been done by the Arab world or by Egypt, and the efforts of the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati convening 2 months ago with the Iranian Foreign Minister, discussing the nuclear file with the Egyptian wisdom that we are used to. It is still present on the international and regional arena, which is very important. How with Iran is handling the United States, there is no other means except pressure, to apply pressure to avoid any kind of ground war, and which both parties will lose so much if it happens.
Right. Back to you, Ms. Chapman. And Washington continues to speak about progress, while at the same time warning of de escalation to lifting pressure measures, definitely including the naval blockade. Does this indicate a fixed red line or a kind of negotiating tactique?
I think it indicates a red line, not a negotiation tactic, because there has been so many red lines set by Tehran, and these red lines were supported by certain powers that the United States would actually send troops to invade the Iranian coast, and also to secure the Strait of Hormuz. This escalation is completely rejected, and the Iranian regime refuses to change the strategy of policy that has been set for years. The main sticking point here is Netanyahu's influence in the scene, trying to dominate the Middle East, and his determination to take down the Iranian regime using the United States as leverage. Trump now is trying to have longer negotiations, and as my colleagues from Washington have said, that there are calls to impeach Trump, and this was and also we have seen demonstrations out in the street calling to end the war on Iran, and this was a precedent. How would Trump seek to have the Nobel Peace Prize or the war? I think he's seeking the war prize now. And Tehran also is, and on daily basis we find Trump releasing these tweets from the White House and White House statements that are completely out of nowhere and have nothing to do with ending the conflict or stopping the war. And we have seen the Egyptian president, United States, the Egyptian president exerting efforts and calling upon President Trump to end this war. And it is very highly necessary to end this conflict, and this requires wise leadership. and we have seen this in our region
Right.
through the Egyptian state, as there are constant efforts by the foreign minister, the Egyptian foreign minister visits and to speak with the Tehran officials, with the United States officials, to seek peace to prevail and to end the war between Iran and the United States. Both parties should leverage the mediation efforts and to consider this global crisis now due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the US war against Iran.
Right. Ms. Chapman, how do